You good?
I think the chili board will come back to order in open session. Item 5 is the first item. I don't think we got anybody signed up for public comment. Other than we want to recognize Lynn Garcia and David Weaver with the South Plains Food Bank. And we'll just turn the floor over to y'all.
All right, well, thank you. I'm David Weaver, and this is my cohort, Chief Development Officer at the South Plains Food Bank, Lynn Garcia. And we really just wanted to come by today and say thank you for all the support that LP&L has provided the South Plains Food Bank, especially during the You Can Share food drive. We just completed our 34th You Can Share food drive, and you guys have come out and provide the electricity that we need to make that run and to make it happen. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate that gift that you make to us. Your staff is so great to work with, and we're really grateful for that. The South Plains Food Bank will touch 54,000 people in a year's time, and those are people across 20 counties. Things like the food drives that we have during You Can Share are really critical to us in terms of getting food in that we can provide to those families. We touch 1 in 4 people, or 1 in 8 people in the South Plains. And you think about that number and start with 54,000, 1 in 8. And what I've come to realize over time, I've been with the food bank for 21, 22 years, is that those people that we touch every day are your friends, they're your neighbors, they're people you go to church with, your kids may go to school with, or in Jerry's case, their great-great-grandkids may go to school with. But they're our neighbors, and you get to know those people. Each one is an individual story. And but we couldn't do it if we didn't have such great community support. And the You Can Share food drive is just an indication of that. We're overwhelmed. This year we raised over 350,000 pounds of food, over $180,000. We're still collecting food. And now we're at the food bank, and we're in the process of getting all that food boxed up. And starting on Thursday, we will start distributing to seniors, and then we'll start with individuals and families and agencies, and the food will take a ripple effect throughout the community. But it's everybody having a little hand in what we do that makes such a tremendous difference. I just wanted to say thank you. So, Glenn, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yes, of course I do.
I knew.
I just want to, on behalf of the food bank, also tell you guys thank you, but on behalf of myself personally, because I feel so connected to the food bank, and many of you may have heard my story, but I came to the food bank, and one day after I'd been there a couple of years, I went out to the front desk and met Lucia. Lucia was coming to get a food voucher at the food bank, and she had about a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I got to hear her story and how she had told me that she and her husband had moved to Lubbock about a year before, and her husband had up and left her here all alone with her 2 girls, and she had no family support, and she had nobody here. And she turned and looked at me and said, "I just want to feed my children. I just want to be able to feed my children." And in that moment, I realized there, by the grace of God, could have been me, because 20 years ago, my husband died very suddenly of an aortic aneurysm. And in an instant, my life changed. And I had a 19-year-old who was starting Texas Tech, and I had a 25-year-old, and all I could think of was, how am I going to get Yancy through college? How am I going to give her the life that she deserves? And so as I looked at Lucia, I realized, oh my gosh, that could have very easily been me. Except that I had the support of a wonderful family, and I had a mother and father and 4 sisters that could help me through the most devastating time of my life, both emotionally and financially. And they were there to love me and to help me. And the day after the funeral, I remember waking up and thinking, am I going to lose my home? Am I going to lose my car? Am I going to be in line at the food bank? And as I looked at Lucia, I realized she has no one. She has no family support whatsoever. And so on that day, I realized this is where I am meant to be. This is the work I was called to do, because I can relate to to the people that are coming out to the food bank, because for many of them, they have had a life-changing incidents in their life. They have had a sick child, they've had a loss of a job, they've been in a car accident, they had some unexpected occurrence that's happened in their life. And so I just want to thank you, because I am not only blessed to work and see the people that I'm helping every day, but I get to work with tremendous donors and compassionate, caring people in this town, in our 20 counties. I just cannot tell you the people that will come up and hand me $1 and say, this is all I have, but I want to help. And giving everybody the opportunity to help is what builds that community and that sense of belonging. So you guys, you may not think that your 1 week's donation of electricity makes a big difference, but it does. It is helping put food on the table of people that are really struggling. So thank you so much for allowing us to come here and tell you that. I've been at the food bank for 10 years, and LP&L has always been on my list. I'd love to go tell them how much we appreciate them. So thank you for allowing us the opportunity today.
Thank you all very much for coming and expressing that appreciation. We appreciate all y'all do for
Thank
the community
you.
and for the South Point. Anybody, anything they want to add to?
You know, I just wanted to add to what they said. I wish they were still in here, but you know, when I moved, my family moved to Lubbock back in '85, and I joined the Lubbock Local Development. That was and still is the primary project of our club for all these years. We spend $2,500 a month. David and Lynn, I mean, it's their job and it's a calling. I mean, their heart is, you know.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to mention that we had barrels set up for our employees to donate food, and we collected 3 barrels. I don't know if you've seen these barrels, but they're huge drums. So we had 3 barrels full that our employees donated for. I was real happy about it.
Saturday morning, if you want to show up, I think they start at 8 and they go pretty much all day. I bet they can put you to work on the food line. If you've never worked, if you got kids that are the age that can work with you, it's a great place to spend your Saturday. It's the Saturday before. It's really the Saturday before Christmas, but it's this Saturday. So
This Saturday, they're still assembling boxes, aren't they?
I think they do. I'm pretty sure, I know.
9 to noon, I think they're
As
assembling.
they say, maybe they hand them out in the afternoon. Anyway, it's this Saturday.
No, I think they hand them out, yeah.
I think it is Saturday.
Yeah,
I think they start assembling on Thursday.
That is cool.
It's a neat experience.
Well, thank everybody for the comments. There's not anything else, we'll move along to item 6. Presentation and discussion of the updated report by the Director of Electric Utilities, authorities designee regarding customer service, business center practices, procedures, and policies, billing procedures, LP&L staffing, performance, downtown utility relocation activities, and transmission program activities. Mr. McCullough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to call your attention to a few highlights in the written report. I'd be happy to respond to any questions that you might have about this. On page 8, at the very top, I just wanted to point out that we've added another graph to the rate comparison. It's the U.S. average, which you will see on, it's over on one of the graphics, I think, on page 16, at the top of page 16. It's the green graph at the top. That's the U.S. average for electricity for comparison.
That's solid. That's one
Yeah,
that
it's
starts
kind of
about 130.
I'd call it an olive green or something like that. About $125 $125 current month. So we're in good shape compared to most of the country with our rates. On the construction report, we've added 6 new commercial projects and have completed. The ones that are shaded are the completed projects. So there's 3 completed now. And I have not gone through and added up all of the KVA that's associated. That's the third from the last column there, but that's a tremendous amount of connected load that we're working on connecting to our system. Will ultimately show up in retail sales and electric load, which of course we have to accommodate through our system, through power purchases and things like that. pretty good significant increase in capacity that we're talking about on those few pages. Over on the business office recap on page 18, call center average waiting time went down this month, and then we had a record low time of call handling time. You see the notes at the bottom of the page there on page 18. The call handling time decreased to 3 minutes and 51 seconds, the shortest time ever since we've been tracking these statistics. So that's a pretty good metric there, and hopefully we can keep that up. And I know we've spent a lot of time training our CSRs and spending time with them, handling the calls and trying to make sure that our folks that are taking calls or have the information available and can be responsive as possible when you talk to customers. And then got a couple of brief reports in addition to the written material. I wanted Blair to give an update on the downtown project, and then we have Eduardo Rodriguez here to talk about our transmission project. Blair?
Yes, sir, thank you. I just want to kind of recap on what we're doing for the downtown development. If you'll remember, in September, we initiated a pause on active construction, except for 2 projects, one being the LBC, the other one the old jail. We added a third one to that list in last month, which was terminations and completion for phase 2, so that we could energize part of the LBC activity. In January, we'll be able to present a study done by an engineering firm here in town that will tell us an estimated cost on what it would cost for LP&L to complete those activities in the alleys, setting the transformers, the drive type transformers that are associated with some of the odd voltages. They'll give us some scenarios on, I think 5 different scenarios that we can foresee in this type of activity. I think that's it. Basically, expect a presentation in January to kind of bring this to a closure on what direction we could go.
Data back. What they're concentrating on now is short circuit duties at the buses at each substation and the transmission terminals. That task authorizations has been executed and has been for probably a month. Second task authorization we're still working on. We're still fine-tuning the scope on it, but basically that's the update on those 2.
Questions, comments? I guess we'll talk about some numbers on that.
Well, I don't have that ready for presentation today, but when we put this budget, the budget that we're operating under today, put together a number of months ago, Black & Beach obviously wasn't on board yet, and so a lot of those costs in the budget were estimates, and we're refining those as we go. Black & Beach has been working with us to give us a little bit more detail on those costs and when those costs will be incurred. So we'll be having to come forward at some point to do some budget amendments on some of these projects to kind of clean up with the additional amount of information that we have right now that we didn't have almost a year ago. So that will be, I'm not certain on the timing of that. They've given us some good numbers right now, but they keep saying that they'll have a whole lot better numbers in the next couple of months, 2 or 3 months. So I'm weighing on whether, and I'm going to be doing some analysis on whether we go ahead and issue maybe with a little bit of extra. Rates are low right now, and there's some anticipation that they go up. However, we would be capitalizing some interest too, which is an expense. So I was going to do some analysis on that, see what might be best. My first, what I would assume is going to happen is I'm going to tailor that as very closely as I can to what Black & Beach says we need going forward, and that might be a few months down the road before we can do that. But that's just kind of an update on that. It's a work in progress, and we'll continue to refine those numbers as we go.
that's going to be lower volume.
Some projects are higher, some of them are lower. I think it's too early for us because of the flux in their estimates right now. It's too early for us to know for sure whether it'll be higher or lower overall. What we'd asked them to do was provide us a cash flow forecast for what capital dollars we would need to get us until the next issuance of bond, which would be, a year from March, a year from now. I think the city typically issues debt in March or April. And so what I asked them to do is tell us what our cash needs will be until April of 2018, so that we have enough cash on hand to get us through until the next issuance of debt. But we're going to be, once this project gets up and rolling, we're going to be spending some dollars, and we'll make sure we're not holding projects up because we don't have adequate money. But as Andy said, there's some trade-offs between over-issuing, having a cushion, and capitalizing the interest on that versus issuing less now and more later at a higher interest rate. So he's going to figure out that and give us the right answer.
Any other questions?
That's it.
All right.
That's it for my report.
All right. Any final questions for Mr. McCullough on the record? If not, let's go to item 7, presentation and discussion of financial and capital statements, financing options, audits, and financial policies of the flow of fire and light related to net issuance issues, reserve account funding, cost allocation, and revenue and expense projections, customer service issues, and other things.
All right, we're going to do the presentation just a little bit different today. I'm going to give you all an update on our billing system, basically project, and then going to turn it over to Chad to fill you in on some of the financials this month. But I just wanted to give you a quick update on where we are on the billing system, and we'll do this over time. This is a several-year project, and so I want to keep the board apprised of what is going, and we've really just kicked it off. But just a reminder on what the Customer Information Systems project is. It's a lot of it's our billing system. Our customer suite is now about 15 years old and nearing the end of its life, or if not way past its life. The latest version that is offered by Banner is not significant enough to support advanced metering infrastructure that we also are looking at in this project. The project will also include the meter data management system, which is necessary to store that data and operate those advanced meters. It also will involve the AMIs I've mentioned that will be basically recording that consumption and on those hourly intervals and providing that information to us and to our customers. And so, again, the billing system we have currently will not support all of that, and that's the first step in this process of moving to the automated metering technology. And so what we've done is, we're in the very early phases. The board and the council approved this project effective October 1. We have already formed the steering committee. I'm chairing that. We also have Blair McGinnis, who is really representing the distribution and meter shop side of the house. Jamie Cook, who will be the customer information systems and the call center and customer service will be that aspect. Michelle Cook will be collections, dispatch, and meter reading. Chad will be finance. Aubrey Spear will be representing water and wastewater. Mike Keenum will be representing stormwater. Penny Marin, solid waste. And David McGoy, the city's information technology. So we've tried to bring in everybody who's impacted citywide on this project, and we will be having at least monthly meetings, probably more often for some point in time, basically to steer the project, to ensure its success, and to make sure that the staff that reports to each of them are doing what they're expected to be doing. We also have, y'all approved the contract with TMG Consulting. Deborah Ardeline and Todd Stoker have already been here for our first steering committee meeting. They have a large amount of experience. Deborah being many years of experience on IT and utility systems, and Todd, his specialty is on advanced metering. So what we've been doing is we've been identifying all of the business processes, everything that occurs in the billing system throughout all of the utilities, and that is complete. Basically, an inventory of all those business processes. We've turned those over to TMG so they can be identifying the needs of this project. We have identified who will be serving on the RFP selection committee. We'll start with one selection committee, and ultimately we'll break it into two, because there'll really be two RFPs, one for the billing system and one for the advanced metering. That'll kind of move over time. We also have a lot of items in the current billing system that are either old, antiquated, don't work well. There's a lot of data that just needs to be cleaned up before you can do a conversion. So we are knee-deep in that right now, getting all of the cleanup done. That'll take us a while, because there's a lot of work that will be done there. What that will do is make that transition a lot easier. It'll save time, it'll save money, and once we get to the actual conversion process. So we're trying to do everything we can early on to avoid hiccups as we get moving forward. Again, I mentioned TMG Consulting is on hand. We've already given them tours of several of the departments that will be impacted of this. They are planning workshops with each of the staff. There will be a number of workshops to help educate all of us on what are the current technology out there, what's available, so we can identify what's a need, what's a want, and what we have to have. So that'll be going very soon. Something that's happened today, actually right now, American Water Works Association had contacted Aubrey Spear in the Water Department and had said, we hear that y'all are investigating advanced meters. We'd like to come talk to y'all about the benefits of water meters on the advanced metering. And so they also said, well, let us bring in some of the electric expertise that we have that we can share. So they are here today, and our staff is over there, the water staff is going through that, kind of a pre-workshop, I guess, to help us understand what all is out there and what the good and the bad that's out there related to that. Tomorrow, TMG is actually here today to sit in on those meetings, but they're also going to be here tomorrow to kind of drill down a little bit more specifically to us, since they work for us, and to help maybe refine some things that they're learning today. And so we'll be meeting for a couple hours tomorrow to go over the expertise that they have. These are all, again, to help educate us on to know what needs to be included in that RFP going forward. Right now, there's a couple of early phases going on. Phase one, we've been identifying, obviously, the selection committee. I talked about that a moment ago. What are the drivers and dependencies and success factors that we're going to look for in this project? This is more from the steering committee standpoint. We're going to be looking at what resources are necessary, because we can't continue to run a call center and a billing system and have a large piece of that staff also working on this project. So we're going to have to be identifying where we're going to need to fill in with some maybe temp employees or overfill, and that would be coming up in a future budget, but we will need to be identifying what we need to do there. Also need to identify what skills and expertise our employees have and what they can offer, and find out where we're missing some of that skills and expertise that we need. Looking for risks, identifying those early on so we know how we can mitigate that risk going forward. And then looking for alternatives. You know, when we put out the RFP, we will have a base product, but are there some alternatives there that we need to include? Phase two will come. Phase two is really kind of a 2A and a 2B. 2A would be related to the billing system. 2B would be related to the advanced metering, and so these issues will be involved in both of those parts of this phase. But you know, the selection committee being finalized, establishing the framework, risks again. We will, for each of those projects, we'll be developing a project plan for the acquisition of the software, the hardware, all those issues, what meters, what backup system, what communication network that you'll need. We'll also be preparing the preliminary budgets for that. We'll be building the RFP, so that'll be takes quite a bit of time to make sure you incorporate the right things in the RFP to get exactly what we need and want. And then once the RFP is out and back in, the evaluation of those vendor responses, all of that will be part of that phase two, where we will be identifying all of and what that ultimate solution is. And then just to remind y'all what the time frame is, this isn't going to happen overnight. There's a lot of activity that has to happen on the front end that isn't really, you're not going to see a lot of things publicly going on, but a lot of identifying needs for the project. In the next fiscal year, in 17-18, the billing system and the meter data management system, the work on that will be in full swing. The communication portion of the work will begin. Also at that time, we will be identifying who that AMI vendor will be, and then we'll be initiating the purchase of the meters. And then in the 18-19 fiscal year, we will begin the deployment of the meters and the installation. The billing system will be complete by that time. And then in the following year, the meter installation will be complete and everything will go live really basically by the end of that fiscal year. So it's a multi-year process. Would love for it to happen a lot faster than that, but you have to keep in mind it's a $40 million project. It's a large investment for the utility and involves many, many people, many departments. And so coordinating it to make sure it runs smooth and efficient is our top priority, and that we have a very successful implementation of a billing system going forward and advanced metering. So that's a quick update on where we are. Again, as I said, we'll continue to fill y'all in on the progress as we begin to make some more decisions and make some more progress. So any questions at the present time? Yes, sir.
I guess it sounds like it's kind of a foregone conclusion that we're not going to do electric without water and vice versa. Are we at that point yet?
Well, you know, the water department, there's nothing approved in their budget at the present time for advanced meters. What we're doing is inviting the water and wastewater departments in, and so we can create a system that will accommodate at whatever time that may or may not happen. If the council and the water department decides this year they want to go ahead and do it all at the same time, we're ready to go. If they decide they want to phase water meters in over a 10-year period, we will have the communication network, the meter data management system, all of that in place that will accommodate that. So that's why we wanted Aubrey and the city folks to be highly involved, so we don't have to go back and reinvent the wheel when they decide they want to come in. So we're leaving that flexibility for the water department right now.
So,
I just want to,
not clear. I'm not sure.
well, when are you?
Oh, go ahead. I'll go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I mean, we have a new city manager, just a very brief historical. I mean, probably the first time, back when I used to work for a company that did automatic metering, probably the first time we had any discussion with the city of Lubbock, 15, 17 years ago maybe. And over all these years, you know, maybe the water department was serious about it, but electric wasn't. And this goes back before the charter, before there was a separate electric board. But anyway, this has been, almost got to the altar, and then we didn't do it. Then we did do it, then we didn't do it. But anyway, a lot of these type projects have to be self-funding. Depends on how you procure them. One procurement method requires they be self-funding. One of the biggest cost savings related to it is the meter department. I mean, you know, you got all these meter readers. So if electric does it, but water doesn't, we still got to walk all these alleys. So I'm just throwing out for what it's worth. That I think it's really important to get in sync with the city. Financially, question I have is, would it have to be led as two separate contracts, or could there be breakouts and allocation, or would we have to do a procurement in LP&L to do AMI, and then there would have to be a separate procurement for the city council to approve? How would that part work?
I think it could be done either way. I mean, I think you could certainly combine it. If it makes sense, you know, it may not make sense. I'm not far enough down the road to understand if it makes sense to bundle the water and electric meters together with one vendor, or if it makes better sense to do that separately. I mean, there may be some firms that have a lot more expertise on one over the other. I'm not certain on that right now, but I think there's enough flexibility in the process that it could be done as one big contract citywide, or it could be done in electric and water separately. That's my understanding, I would think, at this time.
Well, it'd be a shame to have one done, and then you still got to have all these folks walking up down the alleys years or up for a period of years because they're not in sync. Not too sensible.
I think our main objective in having all the city staff involved in this, and we don't have a capital budget to support it right now, is that we want to make sure that the functional capability is in whatever system we design to support what they might ultimately do. So we make sure that we consider their needs and what that is.
We can talk about down the road, but there is a procurement method that requires the vendor to offset the cost with some of this. We can talk about that at a later time. Because Don wants to talk.
Finally, please, let him talk. Back then, I just want to make it clear that, at least from my intentions, that we're going to head for the electric part of this with or without the water part. Is that not right?
That's the plan.
It'd be, in a perfect world, we both do. But we're going to do it no matter what.
You have a capital budget that is approved by the board and the council, we're going to move forward.
Other questions for Amy? I'm sorry,
Make a
Chairman.
comment. I am so impressed with what the mayor has done about making the city activities so transparent and in front of everybody. And so, I don't know, maybe you all are getting a lot of flack that I'm not privy to, but it just seems like such a wonderful role model for us to follow. I think that you avoid, you're going to get some people who are going to be negative no matter what you do. I think the more we tell people about what we're doing and what we're trying to do, the better buy-in we'll get in the long run. And I think you all have been such a wonderful model. I hope that with things like this, where we know we have people who think the meters are going to read their mail, the more we can do to.
They're going to turn them crazy, Jay.
We're all right. I just applaud your efforts in keeping.
It's the entire council, but thank you.
Well, all of you, I just think it's a wonderful opportunity, and we should emulate that as best we can.
Thank you, Chairman. Any other? Mr. Sagan?
All right, so, we are in the middle of our financial audit right now, so there's still things kind of moving around. So I don't have the full-blown financial presentation that we normally give, but I just wanted to give you a brief update anyway. Chart should look familiar. This is where we always start. It just shows you in December of 13 where we started rate stabilization. We actually cut off about 2 years of this chart because we were starting to compress the graph and it lost some meaning. But you can see here we went from $100.40 up to $102.48. So and this is for your average 1,000 kilowatt hour residential user. We always like to layer in Excel. Our values aren't working, but our friends in Amarillo are charging just about $1 less than us right now, which we know, as we've already discussed, they have a retroactive rate increase that's going into effect on the residential side to the tune of about $4. So that will peak back up. And then the Texas average is kind of right above us at $104 right now. Since the time period of December 13, our customer has saved over $220 compared to the same customer with Excel, and about $280 over the state average. Each month we report the purchase power recovery factor to you, and you can see that it's hurting a little bit out there to the right, and this is largely due to the big true-up that we experienced in August of about $4 million. David discussed C2 charges that are currently being contested from SPP and SPS to the tune of about $1 million, and then the November fuel cost adjustment was also about $1 million more than expected. Yes, sir.
Chad, we put that million in expense rather than in prepaid.
No, it is
part of your
right. If we have the full financials, it's a line item on the balance sheet, depending on if it's over or under collected.
Okay.
It's either an asset or a liability.
All right.
But normally we would update this through November, but we got the bill yesterday at about 4:05, and I didn't feel comfortable rushing through the analysis to put a number up here since we got it so late, because this meeting's a little early. So anyway, don't have the normal financials in terms of the income statement and the balance sheet, but this is the budget comparison. Just comparing October to the same time last year. You can see in percentage terms here on the funding sources, we're doing a little bit better than we were last year. And on the expense side, we've spent a little bit more, but if everything moved in a straight line, we should be at about 8 1/3%. So on both the funding and the expense side, we're a little bit under. One thing I do want to point out on off-system sales, it's pretty unusual to have $503,000 of revenue from our unit contingent and power marketing agreements, confirmed with Blair and Michael Weingart, our production superintendent, that Tolk, the XL unit, was actually down earlier than normal in October for planned maintenance, and then we had a warmer than usual October, so our units were actually called on to meet that need in the market, so it benefited us. And so there's also a corresponding power plant fuel that's higher than we would expect at this time in the year, but that is highly correlated with our off-system sales and power marketing. So purchase power, you can see, came in a little over $11 million, so we're doing okay there. All in all, we're about where we'd expect to be. I want to spend the majority of the presentation talking about our capital program that we've spent so much time and effort on in the budget, and you've heard Eduardo talk about it, you've heard Blair talk about it, and this is the big part of where our focus is going to be in the next several years. Just want to give you a brief update on where we've been the last several years. Since 13-14, we have closed 83 projects valued at almost $65 million that have been added to the balance sheet. 15 of those we have closed just this fiscal year, with 5 more pending open commitments that are valued at around $6 million. So that should get us up over $70 million and close to 90 projects closed. And then the next few slides, I just want to look at the capital program and slice it a few different ways, just to kind of give you some perspective on how it shakes out. So this fiscal year, we added 46 new capital projects, and then we had 23 that we added more funding to. The new projects were valued at $42 million, with the existing, the total funding is about $55. So we've got almost $100 million capital program. And then this, I think, is a pretty telling slide. You can see the big part of our focus is distribution, transmission, and the transmission and distribution. We've got 41 million, 20 million, and then almost another 20 million. So the huge bulk of our efforts are there. Production, we've got 9 projects valued at a little over 7 million. The regional plant, which is really just a FERC terminology, that's going to be our transmission and distribution grid information system. That's going to be the software that Andy just talked about. That's where a lot of those projects are going to be funded. And then general plant is the vehicle CIP that we put together each year. But this breaks it down between type of project, cash and debt funding, and then the total value. And you'll see that 97 million ties back to the 97 million here. So we're just looking at it a different way. Just a reminder, I know that we talk about this a lot, but our rate management methodology, our idea is that smaller incremental adjustments are the best way to handle these kinds of things. And, we feel like that's the most responsible way to manage this and not put a huge burden all at once on our customers. We try to do things ahead of time to maintain and properly repair things to avoid some of the bigger, more expensive work in the near future. And this is just the capital projects that I talked about a second ago. You can see you've got 40, 60, 80 million of your 97 million is focused in transmission and distribution. So just
Did you go back?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry.
No, it's great. Maybe. Okay, there it is.
Thank you.
Sure. Just a brief update. Carissa, our senior accountant, is actually not here today. She is busy writing footnotes for our audit, so I'm sure she would rather be here. But we have already done our field work with the auditors. It was the week after Thanksgiving. They're still at City Hall, and so we're getting a few questions back and forth through email and telephone, but I think we did a good job of getting ready for them beforehand, and so we gave them lots of information. I think we've kept them pretty busy. So you'll see that that first line, their field work wraps up this week, and then we'll primarily communicate with them through the end of December and January, just wrapping up editing and comments, making sure all the numbers tie out in the footnotes and the discussion and analysis. February 7th, our external auditor will be here to present to the LP&L Finance Subcommittee and the City's Audit Committee, and then on the 21st, they will present to you all the results of our audit, and then 2 days later, we'll be at City Council because our audit gets rolled up into the city's audit in their government-wide statement. So that's all I have. I'd be glad to answer or try to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Chad. Any questions for Chad? Good presentation.
Thoroughly bored you to death.
Well, I think the February 7th, we talked about that last month, be the Finance Committee.
We'll post it as an EUB meeting, so everybody's welcome to come. Just be a little bit deeper dive than they do at that later meeting in February.
Any other comments, questions? Steve, thank you, Chad. All right, let's take up item 8. That's consider, nominate, and elect officers of the elected utility board. Last couple of years, we've kind of done this by acclamation, but I'm going to start with the chairman position and just take nominations.
I'd like to nominate Chairman Taylor to continue as chairman.
Other nominations?
Yeah. It's obvious that I'm going to nominate another name for the position, but I want to start out by saying that there's nothing personal about this at all. You've been an excellent chairman, and I've enjoyed working with you, and I tell you, you brought us through some really tough times when we first came here. But I've come to believe that on a board like this, there are benefits in rotating the officers over a period of time. You fellows have been in office for 3 years, and you've done an excellent job. But to me, it seems like if we were to change officers periodically, it would give the perception that this board is adapted to changes and put a fresh face on it. And I just want to let you know that it's not the people that I'm talking about, it's the theory behind it. So at this time, I'd like to nominate Charlie Dunn as chairman. But I didn't know Charlie until I got on this board, and I've come to respect the way that he can deal with weeds of things, find out the details, where he understands it, and present it in a way, that we feel like the results could be good. So for these reasons, I'm going to nominate for, but at the same time, I want to be really sure that you guys understood the purpose behind it and not speaking.
I guess I'll add some comments. I don't disagree with anything you said, Don. I think Chad would do a really good job as chairman. The reason I nominated Greg, I guess thinking about it, several reasons. One, the track record. I mean, he's done a really good job. And the first 2 years were pretty tumultuous, and his steady hand helped us through that. A lot of things did, but that's one. I guess the second thing that comes to mind is he's a business owner, so he's got a good business. Happens to be a financial business, so he has a keen financial mind. And boy, with the things that are going to happen between now and this transition to ERCOT, I mean, it's a lot of decisions that are directly related to finances, and Greg understands a great deal about that. And I guess the last thing I can't remember because I want to do a repairing moment. But at any rate, I just think Greg's done a really good job, and I think but because of the situation we're in, it's not business as usual. We got a lot of stuff going on between now and 2019. And, anyway, that's why I'm not moving Greg.
Well, I understand all your points too, but at the same token, legal guys have an analytical mind too, and we're going to go into some peer review
only reason I put my name in the hat is you guys have had it for 3 years. No other board does that in the city. City council, the city manager has to stand for election every 2 years. The mayor has to stand. The mayor pro tem changes every 2 years. And there's a reason for that. School board changes their chairman very periodically. The reason is you become stale as a board when you have the same set of officers interacting with staff on a regular basis rather than other officers coming in, because that keeps staff on their toes. And as we know from the years of W.R. Collier, when he had this board for 6 years, we paid $5 million to get out of the Republic Power Partner deal. And that was a direct result of the failure of this board back then to exercise proper oversight. That's something I do not want to happen, and that's the only reason that I put my name in the hat.
And I really wish we had a full attendance here, because this is important to the board and very important to the
Chair, one of the things that I'm very appreciative of not only this board, because I think we have a great board, and we've come, and I've been part of coming at a contentious time and then seeing it smooth over and actually get things done. But these guys to the right have done an incredible job of facilitating most of the work that's done. And the reason why I say that is because on this board, whether you sit in these chairs or you sit or don't hold a position per se, their door is always open, and that platform, there's no benefit or no difference in the platform that you have with perspective of having that conversation or bringing any item or agenda to the table. So one of the things, and I certainly respect you guys' point on that, and having the turnover, and I've seen it on different boards where things have kind of gone on the radar because that. But one of the things with Greg is he's pretty transparent, pretty open, and that's another thing our director has done as well. I mean, his door is always open. So I think Jerry brings up a good point. We're in a very challenging time, and to kind of rework things, it almost seems, I guess fickle's not the right word, but it just doesn't seem like an appropriate time, I guess, is what I would say.
Other comments? I want y'all to know how much I appreciate everybody on this team. Every single one. And y'all all know what we've gone through over the last few years. So, this is one of those things where it's a great privilege to do this job. And I feel strongly that continuing that at least for another year is something that I should do. I ask for your support in all of the efforts.
Well, let me say that no matter who sits in that chair, the rest of us will work with him just like we always say. There won't be any change about that.
All right. Well, if there's not any.
I hate this. This is hard. I think in some ways, if I were just, I don't know how to vote. Where are those other people? Bring them back so we can have this decision. In some ways, I hate for Charlie to be the chair because he's such a good back nature. I don't want to lose his voice. And I can see that there's a real value to a turnover. I think that makes really good sense. Almost everything I've ever been involved in where people don't have turnover, it gets to be harder somehow. I can also see the value of carrying out what we've been in this weeds for a long time, and you do have a great mind. four figures, which I have no money for, so this is a tough position to be in. I know it's very badly, but whoever doesn't win, I think, yeah.
It's too bad the other two aren't.
It's shame. Can we call them? Can we call them and say, look, you gotta be responsible, vote? This is hard. And here you are on the very first Friday. Good luck, applicable. So this is a dilemma.
Well, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you. Okay, all those for Mr. Miller. All those for me. So I'll continue in the chair. This. All right, I'll open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I will, Mr. Don Bowman.
Mr. Clement.
I was to say likewise, same reasons I would like to nominate Mr.
Any other nominations?
Is there such a position as vice chair?
That's what we're about.
That's what we're about, not secretary.
Right,
So-
we're going down the.
But is that a, in other words, could this be set so that whoever he is automatically becomes the chair of the workshop? Or it's not like-
I don't
Because
believe so.
maybe that he's the,
Vice chairman is the chair of the meeting, in the absence of the chairman.
Comment about that, James, back, when, of course, 5 of us, a quorum of this board came in at the same time, a little over 3 years ago. And Greg, some people were, twisting Greg's arm to get him to take the chair position, and he agreed to do that. He and I talked at one point, and I agreed to be considered for the vice chair at that time because there was a lot going on. And, I guess I call myself more a semi-retired. I don't get a regular paycheck anymore, but I stay pretty busy. But my schedule is more flexible for those that, have a regular job. And during that time, there was a lot of cases where someone had to represent this board at a city council meeting, a couple times in executive session. Greg travels a lot. So I agreed to do that because I could fill in. And it was the primary role, as Greg said, is to fill in, at board meetings if the chair can't be here. The other thing was, a few times in the first year, I did fill in for Greg. But he's done a super job of keeping his schedule clear. I don't think he's only missed one meeting that I had to fill in. There was maybe 3 times during the first year that I filled in. But that was why I agreed to do that, because I do have some experience with, public sector board, and I could fill in for Greg. Anyway, that's why I agreed to do it at that time. I would like to, James, I appreciate very much you nominating me, but I would like to withdraw my name and leave Charlie's name and support Charlie for the vice chair.
No. I nominate Don Bowman. I do not want to be vice chair.
Okay, well, I was going to nominate you.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
So you're withdrawing your,
No, I was going to withdraw to replace myself with Charlie.
so it's done, you're not done withdrawing? Okay. Okay. Anybody else? I want to say how much I appreciate both of you again. This is a painful thing. It really is. And I asked Richard earlier if we couldn't do this by secret ballot, the nominating ballot and elected, so that we wouldn't have any conflicts.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to withdraw my name in support of Mr. Felton for vice chair.
Okay.
could feel from that role, and I think that you guys, for that reason, Dawn has incredible knowledge for the electric industry, and so I really feel confident in his knowledge, Charlie as well. I
You
mean,
gotta run a meeting, Don.
I have no comment, I'm still shocked by what I just heard.
All right, Jerry, I'm gonna strike you out.
Is that okay with you, Don?
How could it not be?
Strike my name.
Unless everybody withdraws, we don't have a vice chair.
So, since Don's the only nominee, would it be appropriate to call for acclamation, go for acclamation, Mr. Gaston?
That would be fine. Since there's been a little bit of confusion with the nomination withdrawal, probably the vote would be the safest.
So all those for, if there's not any discussion, all those for Mr. Golden for vice chair, please signify by saying aye.
Thank you, I appreciate you.
All right, now we will open nominations for secretary and treasurer. Mr. Jerry's going to nominate Mr. Conrad. Other nominations? Okay, there's not any other nominations. James, you want to say something?
I don't, in the interest of time.
Okay. All right, all those for Mr. Conrad for secretary, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Continue as secretary. All right, thank all of y'all. I know that wasn't easy for me. I think it was easy for any of us. Appreciate it. I just appreciate everybody on this board. We'll take up the consent agenda then. Item 9 is to consider resolution authorizing the director to execute a certain computer software license and maintenance agreement by and between the city of Lubbock and Direct Line to Compliance, Inc. for software licenses and software support and training related to North American Electric Reliability Corporation compliance. Item 10 is consider resolution authorizing the director to execute certain software support service contract for Advanced Control System, Inc. I believe that's for the SCADA system. And then item 11 is to consider a resolution authorizing the director to execute termination agreement by and between the city of Lubbock, Hagenbeck through LP&L Hugo Reed Associates, terminating the agreement for professional services regarding electric transmission related to real property acquisition activities. Should everybody ready to back up in their data? Does anybody want to pull any of those items?
Make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, motion to approve, is there a second? Second. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.